Hello.
Yeah, I guess I'm next there. Well, just a couple of things. The first thing is you mentioned the tree of life. Darwin's tree of life being invalid is it's this is 10 to 15-year-old news, and it's amazing how many evolutionists still don't understand this. Darwin's tree of life, in which the phylogenetic relationships can be proven, via the fossil record and via genetics, it does not exist. Dawkins did not even know this in 2011. Dawkins was at a Origins of Life symposium with Craig Venter, and Davies and the physicist Davies and Dawkins were talking about the tree of life, and Venter said basically the tree of life does not exist. And Dawkins was dumbfounded. He was taken back. He said, "Well, what do you mean it does not exist?" And I think Craig Venter's exact words were, "I'm not so sanguine as my as my uh, as my colleagues here." He said the predictions, the original predictions, are not panning out, or something along those lines. They're not panning out as thought. So he said we do not have a tree of life. He said this emphatically. The tree of life does not exist. We have a mangled bush of life, in which it becomes impossible to predict, make any predictions. And the reason they give for this is horizontal gene transfer. Of course, they have no evidence of this, but this is the excuse that they give. So, stop reiterating, stop saying that, the tree of life actually proves evolution, because it does not. The tree of life does not exist. Okay, we have a mangled bush of life with no ability to actually predict relatedness based on sequences. Excuse me, go ahead, Edgar.
Yeah, for me, evolution means simply that moving on. Sometimes evolution can be synthetic. So for me, the meaning of it is no, I didn't jump, did I? Oh, sorry, Mark. Okay, take the mic.
Hey, Edition, wait your fucking turn, man. What are you fucking like? Ooh. Reboot the room if you can see the hands up. Oh, bloody Malteser. Covered in chocolate. It's all right, Edition. You get excited, I know. You Maltese people, we get excited like Italians. Get all excited about things. Oh dear, well, I think we're splitting hairs here. Tree of life, bush of life. Fuck's sake, burning bush of life, maybe? Ew, that was in the Bible. Burning bush of life. Oh, they must have known about evolution in the Bible. Oh, my fucking God. Well, I don't know if it's still there, but I was in the British Natural History Museum. Oh, excuse me. Many moons ago, and they had this wonderful diagram of the tree of life. And it looked like it was quite real to me. It made a lot of sense, starting way back in time, and the different branches of life branching off in various directions. I think somebody's just splitting hairs. Tree of life, bush of life. Yes. Evolution is an erratic thing, isn't it, really? It's just adaptation to circumstances. And there we go. Rabbit chew cud and insects have 4 legs. Who? Oh, IDS thinks a rabbit's chew cud. Aye, well, there we go. The whale can still chew the cud. I think it's got about 4 stomachs, like a cow or something with it. I can't remember exactly. But there we go. So if you're arguing against evolution, you're pissing up the wrong tree. The tree of life can be simply explained. If you climb the tree, you are alive. If you fall out of the tree, you could be dead. Okay, that's the tree of life or death. That's my take on it. Nearly bedtime, and my sense of humor is going down the tubes. So I better pass this off to Agnostic One. Mic free, Agnostic One.
Well, IDScience, there in text is your problem. All you're doing is quoting stuff that you're reading. You don't actually understand the material, and this is a problem. I mean, I saw it in the formal, I hate to say it, but yeah, I saw it in the quote, on air quotes, formal, end quote, debate that we had the other day, that you simply can't address what your opponent is saying because that would require that you go off script. In order for you to go off script, you would actually have to have an education. Right. No, in our 10-minute debate, you were
Debate and voice.
50%
I've
of
had
that
my
debate.
experiences
And
debating
you
and
dropped
voice.
the ball
90
every
to
chance you were
95%
given the microphone. So I'm not even really talking about the debate. I'm only appealing to it in that that was when I discovered for myself that you don't have the, no, I bowed out of the conversation. It was over. So I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's the link. Anybody can watch it. If you guys think I ran, good for you. But anyway, in the debate, you can see that he can't address the points that are given to him. All he can do is read from a script. He doesn't know the material at all. He doesn't know if it's correct or not. It just sounds good to him because it's going against evolution. So he reads it to us. He quotes a bunch of people. But he doesn't know the material. It's not in his head. He doesn't understand the mechanisms. He can't represent the models. Right? He just reads shit, and he does this to try to sound informed. Now anybody could do that. I could go to Wikipedia, I could go to my university database, pull up some random fucking article on evolution and just read it to you. And I'll sound all super informed. I'll use big words that are hard to spell, and you won't know what's going on, right? I could do the same thing too, but problem is that isn't conducive to a conversation. IDScience, no one can have a conversation with you. You stay on script. You talked about, like, I addressed you personally just recently on microphone, and you didn't even address anything I said about, like, why cyanobacteria still exist. You didn't concede that notion. And when I brought up the tree of life, you just used this to shit talk Darwin, which, you know what? Fuck Darwin. No one gives a shit about Darwin in modern life, right? Darwin is old. His material is near obsolete. It's like no-brainer shit now. It's crap that they teach in 101. You don't learn Darwinian evolution in higher biological sciences today. That's introductory crap. It's the same as teaching people spontaneous generation. In the exact same class you learn about spontaneous generation as when you learn about Darwin. 101, introductory courses you haven't even taken. That's the problem. You don't understand the basics, so you say ridiculous things like, it's not a tree, it's a bush. Like, okay. What's the fucking difference, man? It's got a stalk and it's got many branches. So, you just don't know what you're saying at all in any way. It is pathetic, man. So I wish that you would comment on what I just said about cyanobacteria and why we can still, according to biology, expect to see cyanobacteria today as we could expect to see it in 100 million years. That environment that cyanobacteria thrive is not likely to go away. So they're going to thrive. Now, that doesn't mean that their offspring can't go into other environments and evolve and adapt to those environments and give rise to other organisms. You completely ignored that point and just bashed Darwin. Well, good for you. Now, come back to the microphone, read from your script. Free mic.
Okay, I just want to know about the Christian bread. Why do they use it? I know it's off topic, but I don't get it. You know, they take the bread and they split it and they.
Yeah, that's a piss poor accent, Ocean Blue. Well, agnostic one. I'm actually glad to see that the YouTube site that he posted has a text comment. So this is what I'm going to do, agnostic one. I originally challenged you to a debate on a message board, and you declined. You didn't want to do that, which that's fine, okay. But now we actually have our debate up on YouTube in which we can comment on it, agnostic one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to that website, the YouTube website, and I'm going to formally challenge you to a text debate. because, you know, and the reason I said this earlier, and this is the reason why you stopped the debate 10 minutes into it. Okay, you stopped the debate. You basically gave up 10 minutes into the debate because I was inundating you with stuff that you could not answer, and you knew at that point you could not answer it. But see, you can actually research the stuff that I'm gonna post on that website. I have that YouTube website, and I'm going to officially challenge you to a debate on that website, on the YouTube website. So we'll see if you're up to it. Go ahead, agnostic one.
Well, if you're going to try and represent me, at least don't quote mine me. The reason that I don't want to debate you in text is because it's too easy for you to just copy pasta other people's material, which I can almost certainly guarantee that if I just put quotes around anything that you post on that YouTube forum, I could find it on the internet or somewhere. So, and you know, even if I can't, I don't care. I don't text debate. What part of that don't you understand? I come to Pal Talk because it's Pal Talk. I come to Pal Talk so I can use the microphone and talk. That's why I'm here. Now, you would be better off going to a blog. I'm sure you can find many people on that blog. And I guarantee that those people, some of those individuals you're going to find don't want to come to chat rooms like this and use audio. They're more comfortable in text. I'm more comfortable in audio, and one of the main reasons that I'm more comfortable in audio is I get to listen to you, right? And I can determine for myself whether you understand the material or are you just reading it. Now, again, to the second part of what you said about me bowing out of this conversation, I warned you in the conversation, and anybody is welcome to go click on it, skip like the first 8 minutes to where we start, and there was a topic. There was a particular topic. I assumed the affirmative on that, so I went first. IDScience went second and was completely off the topic. He was entirely off the topic and did not address the topic in any way, shape, or form. So I came to the microphone, I told him as much, and I warned him. If he does this, shift the goalpost again, that I was going to accept that he was done with the conversation. Not that I was done with the conversation, that he was done with the conversation because he can't stay on topic. And what I told him in the audio that anybody can click on, that I was not going to do a repeated back and forth with him, that it was a formal setting, we present our ideas, and then we appeal to the audience. And so I went twice with you on this IDScience. You move the goalpost twice. Anyone can listen for themselves. And you were warned that I was going to bow out, and keeping to my word, I bowed out and appealed to the audience. I was done. I had finished. I represented it. You didn't have an objection, so I was done. You ceded the floor. That's what happened. So, you know, you're just up here, you know, trying to muddy the waters and stuff. And again, you said nothing about my comment on cyanobacteria. Nothing you have said to me on microphone in even any way remotely addresses your comment in text, which I responded to about why we still see cyanobacteria today. You want to talk about the debate, so you want to debate about debates, and then you want to keep appealing to that you can link me things that I don't know. Well, big fucking shocker. There's 69 people in the room. I'm going to tell every single one of you. There is a lot of shit in biology I don't know. So it's not hard to post me things that I don't understand. I'm not an arrogant prick that thinks that they understand and know everything. That's someone else's position. Free Mike.
Agnostic, it's not about knowing everything. That's not what it's about. I don't know everything. I know actually very little. You know, in the scientific world, this has nothing to do about knowing everything. It has everything to do with being able to understand the argument being made and dismantle the argument being made, whatever the argument is. Okay. Most of the arguments that I have, most of the debates that I have on the internet, not recently, but in the past anyway. I mean, I probably know 75% of 75 to 80% of the information when I debate other atheists. You know, 20% of the time there's things I don't understand, which I have to research, and which I do. You know, 10 years ago I knew probably 10%. But see, this is why you guys don't know anything in here, because all you do is talk. You don't research. You don't actually research to see if your information is correct or not. Okay. Hell, excuse me, not hell, agnostic one. Cyanobacteria, the evidence is that stasis exists from 3.5 billion years ago. Okay, stasis is the predominant feature in the fossil record. Okay, there's massive gaps. Okay, and the reason you don't want to debate me in text is because you know for a fact that I can inundate you with this information, with the fact that Gould, Eldridge, 20 other paleontologists have said that the fossil record is embarrassing. Darwin said this. Darwin was completely embarrassed by the Cambrian explosion. Okay, there's a reason. I mean, everybody in the room knows the reason why you do not get into a text debate. It's because there's going to be stuff from scientific articles that you're going to have to study and respond to, and give your own personal definition to it. Okay, and you're not prepared to do this, which is fine. Then don't, if you're not prepared to actually jump into the deep end of the pool, don't get into a debate. Stay like these other guys. 95% of the other people in the room here, they stay in text, and that's all they do. Okay, if you're going to jump up and challenge somebody to a debate or accept a debate, then you need to be prepared to get into the deep end of the pool. You're not. Okay, go ahead, Hel.
So, IDScience just said if you got into a text debate with him, he would be dishonest. He would just shotgun stuff so that way you can't address it all, and then he can proclaim victory. That's what he just said on mic. And what's preventing him from providing sources that support what he claims in Pal Talk? Does him talking on mic make him physically unable to post links in the text or something? I yield the mic.
Yeah, IDScience. I'm not new in this room, and I'm not new to Pal Talk. I was on Pal Talk before this room. I'm glad this room's here. I'm here now. I come here every day. I don't go to any other chat rooms. I come from another forum. Some of the members of this room know that I've debated back then. No one in this room that knows me is going to buy this bullshit that I'm not ready for a debate. In the audio debate that we had that Delta has posted, I stood up to your challenge. I addressed these same attacks that you keep levying against me, that I don't want to go into text for what you claim. Yeah, everybody in this room knows that I don't want to text debate, but also everybody in this room has been given a reason directly from me why that is. Now, they can take my word for my own opinions, or they could take your word for my opinions. So I don't know what you're talking about. You're not making any sense to me, and I would bet that you're not making any sense to the audio or to the rest of the chat room when you make these accusations against me that I'm not ready to debate you. It's ridiculous. There's a debate right there. I mean, massive cognitive dissonance. You're just blatantly ignoring reality. And again, you didn't say anything at all about cyanobacteria and why we see them today. All you did was say that you can inundate me with a bunch of data. Well, I have access to about $11 million worth of databases right now. I can inundate the fuck out of you with papers that talk about the mechanisms of biology. So what are you doing? You're just saying that you're going to copy pasta things to me. And I'm telling you, I don't care if you can copy pasta. All I care about is how well you represent what you're talking about. And apparently, you can't do that very well. You have to keep the text. Do it on audio. And I'm not gonna meta debate you anymore. It's fucking childish. It's a waste of my time. And I literally have better things to do than meta debate. So, either put up or shut up, dude. Fuck, free mic.
Nice job, agnostic. Yeah, this claim that biologists have fully stated that there are huge gaps in the fossil record. Duh. Fossils are extremely rare. The fact that we even have hundreds of them from a specific era is actually pretty impressive. So, you basically shot your argument right in the foot, IDScience, because those who still accept evolution are fully aware and understand why there aren't a lot of fossils. So that's already one of the stupidest things I've ever heard coming out of an ID proponent's mouth. As a matter of fact, it's already been debunked because these same people, like Gould, have said it would be impossible. It's a near impossible standard to actually say you need to find every single species that has ever lived on this earth. Some of them have probably died out without leaving a fossil, you goddamn moron. So if you want to hold that impossibly high standard, you're welcome to it. You're never going to accept evolution because you have an impossibly high standard. So, this whole objection that you just brought up is itty-fucking-otic. And Agnostic One, I'm right there with you. This person is no longer worth debate because they're using arguments that are years old, have already been addressed and put to rest. We don't look at people like this because it only encourages them. Go ahead, John.
Well, exactly. Agnostic, he tried this crap with me before. Oh, let's go to the text room. Let's go to a text room. Oh. Now, here's a problem. I don't speed type. I don't use both hands. It takes me a while to type out something. I know where the letters are, but that's about it, okay? I'm like you, Agnostic. I'll get in the voice, because this is pal talk. But if IDScience wants to go back to ancient history and say, Darwin was wrong, so-and-so said Darwin was this, that, come on, IDScience. Let's deal with the modern DNA. Let's deal with the modern ideas of science. Poor Mr. didn't have DNA at all to check into. It would have been nice. I mean, he probably would have really been able to correct a lot of his errors if that was the case. But when you came up, IDScience, and said there's stasis in the fossil record, talk about something ridiculous. You have got to be kidding. Where do you get the idea that there is stasis in the fossil record? Some character somewhere for some university come up and said, like you said so-and-so Darwin was wrong? Come on, IDScience. Give me an example of why the fossil record is in stasis. I'm sorry. We got too many variations to claim that kind of stuff. So, are you going to come up here and complain about people not wanting to go to text and Darwin was wrong? Like I say, you're cutting and pasting. That's all you're doing. I agree, Agnostic. He doesn't debate. Go ahead, IDScience. Spew some more from your Darwinian evolution being wrong.
Okay, yeah, John, see, this is the reason I detest verbal debates, because John the Thinker, even though most of you in the room don't know a whole lot about evolution, John the Thinker, well over 50% of the atheists in this room, they know for a fact stasis is a predominant feature in the fossil record. They know that you're wrong. They're not going to actually tell you to your face. They're not going to tell you, John, you have no idea what you're talking about, like I will. This is something you just need to just research it. Just go to Google and type in fossil record and stasis. That's all you have to do, John. And you'll find endless references to the fact that stasis is the predominant feature in the fossil record. Stasis and sudden appearance. This is a fact. To say IDScience, where are you getting this from? This is 20-year-old news, John. Novice creationists, baby creationists who are debating know this. They're very well aware of this. And the fact that you still don't understand this is 20-year-old news and you still don't understand it, tells me that you need to stop talking and start studying, really. Don't debate stuff that you haven't studied, okay? I've learned my lesson a long time ago, okay? Many years ago, I jumped in, I started debating things that I did not study, and I had my rear end handed to me many times. You don't do that. Don't debate stuff that you haven't studied first, because you're going to have your rear end handed to you, even if you're right. Because if you haven't studied it, you can't prove that you're right. You can't prove the other person's wrong and you're right if you have not studied the information. Okay. the fact is that there are gaps in the fossil record. There is huge gaps in the fossil record. So how do we reconcile this? How do we? And I know my 2 minutes are getting up here. The only way we can actually we can infer evolution is through the phylogenetic relationships. You know, those species that are predicted to be closer related should have similar genetics, and those species that are predicted to be distant related should have less similar genetics. This is the tree of life, right? That those relationships do not exist when we match the DNA sequences, DNA and RNA sequences against what we believe from common ancestry. It does not match up at all, and this is why Carl Woese had said, there's phylogenetic incongruities can be seen everywhere in the universal tree, from its roots to the major branchings within every among various groups and the makeups of the primary groupings themselves. Okay, it does not exist. Okay, the phylogenetic relationships, the inference for evolution does not exist, and this is the reason why I want to debate in text, because Agnostic One and John thinks that this information is true, and in fact it's false. Go ahead, Pantheist.
Yeah, I only see I actually Googled what you said there, IDScience. I only see like maybe two websites that talk about it that are not creationist sites. One is about from Berkeley on punctuated equilibrium, and even in the article it's talking about punctuated equilibrium is an important but often misinterpreted model of how evolution change happens. Punctuated evolution does not suggest that Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection is wrong, or mean that the central conclusion of evolutionary theory, the life is old and organisms share common ancestor, no longer holds, nor negates previous work on how evolution by natural selection works, or implies that evolution only happens in rapid bursts. And that's the first article when I Googled it. And also, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, research IDScience, because even the sites that you're suggesting, they're not even academic sites like Darwinism Refuted, which is created by her and Urin and some of the other Muslims. I mean, I'm quoting from the article, one of the articles. This is on mechanisms, and it says when it's trying to say what evolution is, it says over time more complex cells, eukaryotes, and multicellular organisms came into being. In other words, according to Darwinism, the forces of nature built simple inanimate elements into highly complex and flawless designs. And I'm a layman, but I know that there are no. I haven't seen anything on evolution where any of the biologist claims that evolution is flawless. I mean, we have genetic mutations where people are all fucked up, animals born with extra limbs. They have problems that because of their deformations or susceptible to they could be born with very weak immune systems. They could have chronic problems, especially to disease. So essentially, the problem with at least the sites that you're using IDScience is you're not referring to any academic sources. You're just referring to laymen and their polemics against evolution. So I'm not really sure how you're calling that research. Are you actually using academic sources, IDScience, or just people who don't like evolution, which you support? Smartass, your mind.
Yes, IDScience, I'm pretty much going to echo what was just said, except to tell you that my degree is in anthropology. So show me the academic papers that support your claim. I studied this shit inside and out, and there is nothing academic that I have found or that has ever been mentioned to me in my studies that supports your claim. So please show us that academic information. Did you understand that, IDS? I just want to make sure that you understand it so that you can't just simply ignore it, which I have every belief in the world. Okay, IDS. Then please show us that academic information. Mike is free.
The other problem you have, IDS, is you would have to show us where there is absolutely no changes in the DNA during sexual reproduction. Absolutely none. Your claim is that there are some areas where it doesn't happen. Yes, you would, IDS. That's what you'd have to prove. You would have to prove that there were never any changes between the adult and the offspring to prove that evolution doesn't happen. That's your mistake. You're the one that's claiming that it has to be 100%. You're the one that claims that we have to know 100%. And that's because you got nothing, IDS. And it's kind of strange because you hold science to a far higher degree than you hold your religion, right? Your claim that God done did it, that he took mud doll and made it walk and talk, right? And pretending that ID could be aliens in outer space because we don't have any evidence of smart aliens. So therefore it could be smart aliens and not God. It's just you playing smoke and mirrors and doing a little sidestep. But that's your problem, IDS, because you'd have to show that. And you'd have to show that there was no transitional system between species. None at all. But you're not willing to do that because you can't. And we know you can't, reach the bar. That's why you don't want to debate in voice, because every time you do, you get exposed as being dishonest and not understanding the information. And person after person defeats you, and then you kind of walk away whining. You want to go to a place where you can cut and paste, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But now you're here just whining over and over again. How many times have we heard, I don't want to debate in voice. I don't want to debate in voice. Take me to a blog. Take me to a blog. I don't want to debate in voice. Take me to a blog. How can you do that over and over, day after day? What kind of moron does that? You come to a chat room, Pal Talk, and then whine that you want to go to some blog because the information you're going to present is so dishonest in voice. For some strange reason, IDS, you think that when you talk on the mic, you're going to lie and be dishonest. But if you were on a blog, you wouldn't be. All of a sudden, you'd become an honest person if it was in writing. That's not true, IDS. You're more than willing to be dishonest in writing, just as you are in voice. So, come on up. Be as dishonest as you want. Or need to be.
Okay, well, how about you come over to the YouTube site? This is the believers versus non-believers. How about you come over there and debate me? See, the reason is because the information that I'm going to give to you requires you to read and understand the scientific articles. You know how boring that would be? Seriously, do you understand how incredibly boring that would be in this room? If you say, well, IDScience, prove it. Okay, and then I say, okay, I post a scientific article. Now it's going to take you 10, 15, 20 minutes to read it and show me in the article where it does not say what I'm saying it says. Or where it says, actually, it contradicts what I'm saying, or it actually says what you're saying it says. That is incredibly boring, okay? Nobody in this room wants to deal with that, right? This is the reason, why I don't do it in this room. I don't do it in voice. This is the kiddie end of the pool here. This is, what I do when I get bored, basically. But, if you want to come over there, let's go. Let's go over there. I'm actually going to go over to that website and challenge Agnostic One to a formal debate on that website. I don't think he's going to accept. I'm not a psychic, but I'm going to predict he's not going to accept the debate. See, what else was there? There's something else I had to say. I can't remember what it was. Go ahead, Pantheist.
Well, you haven't given any scientific articles yet there, IDScience, and I don't see why it would make any difference between debating in this room or another
debate
room.
in voice. I've had my
if you're claiming to have scientific articles, then show them. right? Because right now you're just using sites that use polemics, and they're straw manning it. Like I said, I can see that I'm a layman, but as little as I know about evolution, I know it has nothing to do with the idea of flawless designs. So when I read in one of these on this website of yours, it's called darwinismrefuted.com/mechanisms.html, that when it's talking about flawless designs, there's no such thing as design in evolution. I mean, it's just the idea. It's using loaded terms that I know that they don't use when I read the actual sites from from EDU sites, for instance, from universities or from the National Academy of Sciences, for instance. Yeah. So who gave this website? I don't think any atheist gave this website. Darwinism Refuted. Yeah, I copied and pasted that from you. There, IDScience. As a matter of fact, I even looked at in the About section. Where is it? There's on the bottom of the page about the author, right? And he talks about having some university, but it has nothing to do with the sciences. He's basically a Muslim, and that he claims he used to be an atheist, and he no longer is an atheist anymore. It's pretty much about it. So, Realistic Christian used that site. Okay. Realistic Christian saying that's IDScience source. All right. Well, in either case, I'm waiting for a source that's actually from a credible academic website. Anyway, John, you're in mic.
Yeah, thank you, Ant. Yeah, I find it interesting the way they plug in this design to everything. It's mutation. It's random chance, adaptation, mutation that we're dealing with here. And somebody in the text, Mark, I guess it was Mark KK, was saying, what's beyond biology? What's beyond chemistry? As if there's some kind of a dude out there putting it all together. I mean, what do we just got out of kindergarten here or something? I mean, the thing is, we are a carbon-based life form. We are mostly water. That's what we are. That's what all biology is. It is the chemicals of the periodic table. I've said this 1,000 times. And then these creationists come up and say, well, what's beyond the chemistry? Well, if I knew that, I could sure win the prize tomorrow. No problem, the Nobel Prize, no problem if I knew that. Of course, there's flaws in these records. That's what these guys love. They love to dig in and say, ooh, look what I found. Ooh, look what I found. Stasis in the fossil record. How'd you find that? Oh, it was in a creation website I posted. Ooh, yeah. That's what it's all about. Imaginary ideas. There's no stasis in the fossil record. I mean, who out of basic chemistry would come up and say that there's stasis in the fossil record? DNA proves that wrong, for heaven's sakes. Yeah, and then they go back to Darwin there, IDScience. Enjoy your Darwin. Tell us Darwin's wrong. Okay. Oh, no, you just go to my text room. Have a nice day. I'm not gonna debate you in some silly ass text room. Get over it.
Yeah, you're not going to debate me, John, because from hearing you the last 20 minutes, I told you 20 minutes ago to go Google stasis in the fossil record. You didn't do it. And then you came back up to the mic 20 minutes later and says, there's no stasis in the fossil record, IDScience. What are you talking about? John, this is 25-year-old news. I mean, this is, I don't want to be condescending. This is a little bit embarrassing that you don't even understand the basics of the fossil record. 20 years ago, we knew that the fossil record was nothing but stasis and sudden appearance. And 20 years later, you still don't understand this. Why do you think Gould invented punctuated equilibrium? What do you think the reason for that is? Gradualism is dead, okay? Gradualism does not exist in the fossil record. I can give you as many references as you want from scientific peer-reviewed articles, on PE. I can give you quotes from paleontologists, from their own books that say this. So just to say that, the fossil record it shows gradualism, it does not show stasis. John, you show that you have no idea about the topic of the fossil record anyway. And I'll say one more thing here. I'll get off the mic here. To someone who said, I think it was who or somebody who said that, they gave a reference to why ID is not science. Okay. Who, do you understand that ID is the future of science? Do you understand that science will eventually intelligently design life? Do you understand this? The way that science is progressing, science will, if God does not reveal himself before this, science will in fact be building and designing cells, verifying the hypothesis of ID. So to say ID is not science is to actually say that it's impossible for an intelligence to create a cell. If ID is not science, if intelligent design of life is not science, we must therefore conclude, if that statement is true, that science will never be able to actually intelligently design life. But if science is will eventually actually intelligently design life, which Craig Venter predicted, by the way, Craig Venter in 2011 predicted science will eventually do this, then you're incorrect. And science, ID, not only is ID science, ID is at your doorstep, because we are practicing the basics of ID right now. It's called sequence genetic engineering. We're actually practicing the basics of intelligent design as we speak. Okay, go ahead, smartass heathen.
Okay, IDScience, you said you heard me and understood what I was asking before, yet you have not presented the academic documents that you claim you can. What you did was you got on mic and told somebody else that you could present them, but they're so boring, nobody would read. My degree is in anthropology. IDS, for the claim you're making, you claim you have academic sources that support your claim. Any of your idiotic claims would work, ID. But you've presented nothing. You've presented bullshit. Cistern, if you don't like the way my voice sounds, use your mute button, please, sweetie. So, IDScience, please present your academic documents to support your claims. Then we can read those documents and we can see how right you are. The mic is free.
Yeah, IDScience, I'm not sure. Do you accept that God transcends the universe and distinguished from it? All right, well then it's game over for you because you can't have any arguments for God. You just fucked yourself. I'm glad you said that. No, you can't, because you can't make any inferences. IDScience, a being that transcends the universe, wouldn't have any evidence for it. What you're saying doesn't make any. You can't have evidence for God if you believe that God also transcends it. That's why it would be what you call a categorical mistake on your part. I don't accept multiverses, IDScience, right? So I don't have to worry about that problem. You do, since you believe that God transcends the universe. It doesn't matter whether many atheists do. I don't. You're talking to me, not them. So, in any case, you cannot make inferences using, well, you couldn't even do it even if you were using the universe. even if you didn't think that God transcends it. Because the problem is, since we only have one universe that we're aware of, IDScience, you need contrast to make any inferences using the universe. And without a contrast, you can't make inferences, let alone sound arguments. And that takes away the sound arguments, especially since you believe that God transcends the universe. So your premises would be useless. You can't even make valid arguments, IDScience. So this is, I don't really see what you can do. And not only that, but here's the kicker, IDScience. Let's say you're right. Let's say that, just for hypothetically, evolution is total bullshit. All that would do means that we wouldn't have any explanation for why there's diversity in the animal kingdom. That's all it would mean. Because you haven't shown anything to support your position. You're just using polemics. And an argument is not strong because another argument is weak. He has to stand on its own basis. And so that's another big problem that you have. But yeah, you basically taking God off the table, so you can't have any evidence for God. Matter of fact, you can't even have an experience for God.
Debate and voice. I've had my
John,
experiences.
Well, he just shot himself in the foot. He said science will build the biology. He just said that. And that proves the creator. What? Huh? Wait a minute. I missed something somewhere. Science will be able to create life. That's what he said. And that proves creation. No, it doesn't prove any godly character at all. It only proves that our scientists are very smart. Our scientists are always looking into biology to see what they can find out about the abiogenesis situation. But why do you try and play these silly word games, IDScience, and try to say because some scientist could create life, that makes a creator real? That's total contradiction, ID. That's total assumption. Total ideas from out there somewhere in the ether or whatever. You've got to realize that God and scientists in a lab are two different things. God is a mythology that you believe in. If science makes a cell in the in a test tube, that proves you wrong. It proves that God doesn't exist, that life came about from the chemicals that we are made of. IDScience, thank you for shooting yourself in the foot. Have a nice day. On with you.
Okay, John. I'm just going to stop responding to you because your arguments are just completely logically incoherent. Who was it who said? I think it was Pantheist who said that I have no evidence for something that transcends the universe. Quantum physics. If you're familiar with quantum physics, the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics, something outside of the system a sentient being or sentience has to be outside of the system in order to collapse the wave function. I'm not sure. I'm going to post a quote here from atheist Quentin Smith. I'm not sure if it's going to actually post. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Quentin Smith, he's an atheist apologist. He said that the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics is the best evidence for God in the 20th century. Okay. The Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics has completely and totally dismantled naturalism. Naturalism, it's on its dying breath right now. Okay. Quantum physics, and just Google. I mean, go to YouTube and type in quantum. What is it? Quantum physics debunks naturalism, or quantum physics, something like that. So to say that there's no evidence, we have no evidence for anything that transcends the universe is false. Quantum physics actually tells us that the universe itself could not be here unless there is a sentient being outside of the universe to collapse the wave function and make the universe exist. And the vast majority of physicists subscribe to the Copenhagen interpretation. What else was I going to say to you? Go ahead. I know you want to respond to this, so go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, that's an inference. That's not evidence, IDScience. And even if they believe that to be true, it doesn't say anything about God. Right? And I notice you keep on saying, well, why don't you Google this, Google that? You're the one who's making the argument for it, right? And you're not supporting it, right? You're shifting the burden. So not only that, but it doesn't make sense that God can do anything outside time or any other being, right? Because you need time to actually do things, to think about things. So to cause a collapse of the wave function, I'm not even sure where you got that from, or it has anything to do with something being outside the universe needing to collapse the wave function. Right? You're just quoting someone else, and once again, IDScience, you're not even presenting any academic material. So you're quoting another guy who's quoting someone who's allegedly, I guess, quoting someone else. You're not studying IDScience. Quote mining is not studying anything. No, you don't know it. You're just quote mining. Matter of fact, you haven't given one source where it's actually from an academic source yet there, IDScience. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Hal, your mic.
There are no scientific papers that show that mines collapse wave functions. Also, that's an unfalsifiable thesis, right? Because to know that the wave function collapsed, you have to be conscious of it, right? So you can't know what happens if you wouldn't have been conscious of it, right? Because to know about it, you would have to be conscious about it in the first place. So just provide a scientific paper that shows that consciousness collapses wave functions. You're not going to be able to do it. You know the mic.
Well, I have a better idea, Delta. I'm actually going to go to the YouTube website. The formal debate.
You can find YouTube videos on alien, alien, abductions, alien visitations to Earth. You can find YouTube videos on perpetual motion machines, bottomless holes, you name it. You know the mic.
Okay, Delta V. This would become an incredibly boring room if I took the time to actually go search my hard drive for the information, because there's like 5, 6 hands up. Everybody's shooting questions at me. They're all different questions. For me to actually, do my research and respond to every single question, it's not possible. Maybe some people can do it. I can't do it. I'm not that talented. Okay, I can't actually do my research on my hard drive for the information, which I do have, and still listen to what your questions are and try to respond to your questions. I can't do it. Maybe somebody else can. I can't do it. Okay. So here's actually just one YouTube video if you want to Google it. The video itself actually has the papers in the video. It's a short video, 10, 15 minutes, and the video itself will give you the there's like 5 or 6 scientific papers that proves that quantum physics debunks materialism. Materialism is dead. Okay, go ahead, John.
Quantum physics debunks materialism. What? You've got to be kidding. What in the heck does that mean? Debunks material? Yeah, right. You know, Hal, I think I'll just let you go ahead. This conversation is getting way, way, way too ridiculous for anybody with any brains to to continue with. Go ahead, Hal. I agree with you, Delta. This is getting ridiculous. All he does is make excuses. Go ahead, Hal.
So, you want us to watch a YouTube video that supposedly cites scientific papers that we don't have access to, and you think that's support of your claims? No, just provide us with the papers. You claimed you have them, so provide them. All you're doing is making excuses. I don't believe that you actually do have them. I think that you're lying about it. Elon Mike.
Yeah, and you could just give us the names of the papers too, and we could Google them, specifically what he's looking at. And for some reason, why is it easier for him to give us a URL to a YouTube video rather than just an actual URL to a paper? That doesn't make any sense. So if you can give the link to one, you can give the link to another. Open mic.
I'm kind of comfortable with his argument about the I'm trying to remember. I think they call it the non-locality of consciousness. I mean, that's pretty well established in physics. Another example he could have brought up would have been that the making an observation of something changes it and changes it regardless of the distance. So it's not a distance effect, so it is outside of physical matter. This is real stuff, guys. Don't shoot him down with ad hominems over it. But the link that I'd like to see him explore, the connection is, or I guess discrepancy would be, what the heck does this have to do with a God? I mean, you put up all the different wacky belief systems that humans have invented to come up with creation stories to explain their unanswered questions, and there's no link. I mean, just because the universe evolved consciousness and this consciousness exists outside of time-space, because time-space had a beginning. Prior to the Big Bang, it wasn't here. So if we want to admit that there's a consciousness effect on matter because of our observations in physics, yeah, let's throw it out there as a theory. I'm cool with it. So let's say that there's another dimension where consciousness has a means to exist and stuff. All right, that's cool. But how does that explain? How does that justify all the crazy, illogical, belief systems that humans have dreamed up, which are now contradicted by science? It doesn't.
Debate in voice. So I've had really, my experiences debating in voice,
and it's not a fair analogy. You can't just say, "Oh, neat, there's more to people than we thought. It's not just materialism." So therefore, that proves that Jesus is my savior. It's just a non sequitur. So, address that, IDScience. Mike's free.
Okay, Taprika. But we have two different arguments taking place here. My statement does not prove Christianity is valid. Okay, Christianity is based in faith. Okay, it doesn't prove that God is valid. What it does prove, and when I say it doesn't prove God is valid, then we have to, that gets into a different argument and giving me the proper definition of God, okay? Because if we're going to say God does not exist or it doesn't prove God, then you have to actually give a definition of God, which is a completely different argument, okay? But what it does do is that it debunks the traditional view of materialism. Okay, it debunks that the only thing that exists is what we can observe and what we can quantify and qualify. It debunks it totally. What is it? The quantum entanglement proves that information can travel faster than the speed of light. Einstein didn't like anything to do with. He didn't want anything to do with quantum physics because he couldn't understand it. And quantum. I mean, the multiverse of quantum physics is born out of this. The 11 other dimensions of string theory, which is, by the way, just as unfalsifiable as God is it was exactly born out of this. Is born out of the quantum physics. Theists have been believing and teaching a different realm, a different dimension of reality, which we call the spirit realm, for centuries. I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, we've been teaching this, and now science finally catches up, and they call it string theory. They call it, other dimensions of reality. Okay, they're actually talking about the exact same thing that theists have always believed in. They just rename it. Go ahead, pantheist.
Yeah, and all the time you're wasting on the mic, you could use that time to go get those papers that you claim you have. Let me ask the atheists in the room. How many atheists, put a 1 in the room if you would rather have IDScience take the time to get those papers that he claims to have on his computer, then come back and then give his arguments with the papers to support his position, rather than just constantly go on the mic without anything. I'm willing to wait IDScience. It seems like the atheists in the room are willing to wait on that too. And while I'm a materialist IDScience, I don't have to use my materialism. I can concede that it's my belief. I could be wrong, but even if I'm wrong on materialism, what the hell does that have to do with God being true? Because evidence would still be empirical, whether that evidence is necessarily material or not. You'd still have to be able to experience it and share that experience with others. And when I mean share experience, I don't mean by giving an anecdote. I mean pointing them to where they actually can have the experience themselves. So there's a big difference there. So I'm willing to wait, IDScience. How about you? I don't know, maybe take a half hour, get your shit together, get your papers ready, and then come back. Open mic.
Well, I find it so extremely interesting how he can take apples and make them into orange juice. I haven't quite figured that out yet. Let's see. He says quantum entanglement proves the spiritual. Huh? What? Huh? So I keep hearing these apples and oranges coming out of his mouth, and I'm not quite sure what it's all about. Another one he gave earlier. Our consciousness is outside of physical matter. What? We are a physical matter. That's what we are. I mean, we are a bioelectrical unit. I mean, can you find anything outside, unless you want to go into the woo-woo land of vortexes and what do they call them, kundalinis and all this kind of stuff? Bring up your kundalini and oh yes, all this neat little stuff from the Far East. No, I'm sorry.
The debate and voice. I've had my experiences.
It is bioelectrical activity. Hook me up to an EG. There it is. By golly, beta waves, theta waves, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's how I work. That's how I operate. I'm a biological unit. That's what I am. That's what everybody in this room is, a biological unit. There's no outside. I thought that was so clever. Outside? What in the hell? I mean, I am getting so disgusted with the total apples and oranges that this guy is proposing. He says one thing, and then he says quantum entanglement shows there is a God, so to speak. What? Huh? How does that do it? Quantum entanglement shows quantum entanglement. It's quantum physics. I'm sorry, it doesn't bring about any kind of a dude on a throne anywhere, or any kind of an external being that influences our wherewithal. So yeah, you got to stop with this coming up and talking about apples and then throwing in the oranges and making orange juice out of the whole thing. Anyway, go ahead.
There's nothing traveling through space faster than light when in quantum entanglement, right? There's when you cause the spin to change of one particle, it simultaneously causes the other particle spin to change, and there's nothing traveling between the particles, right? That's why Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. His way of criticizing the idea. Also, what IDScience is saying doesn't make any sense, right? If there was some mind collapsing the wave function of the universe, we wouldn't have the concept of wave function being collapsed, right? Because all the wave functions would already always have been collapsed in the universe. So we could only observe things as having particles, and we wouldn't have the concept of wave-particle duality or any of that. You know, Mike?
Yes, exactly, Hal. Basically, I just want to concur on that, saying that the information can travel faster than the speed of light. That's absolutely wrong. Okay, and if you want to really know about information in physics, I ask you to watch that YouTube video, and you got all your physicists, about I don't know 3 or 4 of them, talk about that issue, and they tell you that information is physical. Why is it physical? Well, because it is about physical things, and it's always embedded in physical things. Okay, so information definitely physical. So there you go. So and it's not traveling faster than the speed of light. Simple as that. Okay, mic is free.
Yeah, I want to go back to Hal's comment. Hal, you're wrong about the collapse of the wave functions. It doesn't work like that. I think in order to capture all of the wave function probabilities over the billions of years that we're talking about, you can't reduce it to one observation. There's just too much variability. I mean, just consider like living things. I mean, with all the genetic changes and everything, you can't just make like one equation to cover everything over billions and billions of years. It's just it's an impossibly complex amount of data to put together into one equation. Nobody can handle that. So the way the collapse works is that it's like the particle wave duality of light. That experiment. So or it's like the electron orbital clouds of matter. The electron orbital, it spins around in a big cloud, and you don't know where its position is. But when you collapse the function of the orbital, you can say where the position is, by observing it. But until you make the observation, you don't really know where it is. So that's kind of how it goes, and I think you're being unreasonable by saying it's impossible. And actually, I mean, I think you're just plain being wrong. I read a pretty good book on non-locality of consciousness that went into it. I think it was called One Mind. I have to pull the author, though. I'm kind of rusty on it. Let's see. There's one other argument, though. I'm kind of on the fence about this whole stuff. I mean, I support. I mean, I see what IDScience is saying, and he's right. I mean, there absolutely, is more going on than just materialism. But on the other hand, that doesn't support, all the religious fallacies that we've got floating around here. And I think that John the Thinker gets this too. Like, he's saying like, apples and oranges, like what I was saying, and it's exactly what it is. But to go to extrapolate, the new findings in physics is that it actually is a really good argument for tearing Abrahamic religions down, because the Abrahamic religions are overly simplistic and they don't support this kind of thinking. I mean, in the Abrahamic religion, you are a lump of clay. You are separate. Your consciousness is separate from a God consciousness that is infinitely evolved from you. You have to redeem yourself somehow to being good with this God consciousness. I mean, it's you're basically, it's like he's taking a Matchbox car and saying it's a Ferrari. I mean, it's not. And really all this physics does is it says that we should ban Abrahamic religions because they're so full of crap and against science. That's all. Mike's free.
Taprika, I think you're missing the point. It doesn't empirically prove God's existence. Okay, what it proves is it cannot be rejected. We have reason to not reject it. If sentience is proven to be an integral part of the universe, and it is, I commend you, because it appears you're an atheist who actually is objective and understands this, unlike many of the other atheists in this room. Even if they actually understood it, they would not be objective. They are actually subjective towards their atheism. You understand this, okay? And the point being made is that you can't reject it. You can't reject the possibility of a godlike sentience existing for any reason. I mean, let alone quantum physics, the collapsing of the wave function, that the universe could not be here. To address hell, God is only collapsing. He transcends the universe. He exists outside of the universe. So therefore, he only needs to collapse the universe. Okay, he's not observing every little detail of our lives. Okay, he is allowing us to do that through free will. And this is why Quentin Smith said that the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics is the best explanation of God in the 20th century, because it actually proves a sentience that transcends the universe. That's the whole point. Another thing that you don't either understand or acknowledge is the fact that abiogenesis could not take place. According to the strict interpretation of the Copenhagen interpretation, abiogenesis in a primordial soup could not take place unless there was a sentience observing it to take place. Hell. So, I mean, this has ramifications, all the way down the line. I'm going to, Delta actually wants a link here. I have, my hard drive is littered with links. I'm going to actually look for a link for Delta. I guess one of the topics I was talking about was stasis in the fossil record. So I'm going to look for this link, and I'm going to post it for Delta, that there is there's peer-reviewed information that, clearly states that we have abundant stasis in the fossil record. Okay, go ahead.
In physics, all particles have a wave-particle duality, right? So if God is collapsing the wave function of some of the particles, then they don't have wave-particle duality, right? They're just simply particles. So you're disagreeing with physics. And what is it in the universe that God is observing, and what is he not observing? Like, it seems you would have to know that in order to know God is collapsing some of the wave functions to begin with. Also, particles together have wave-particle duality, right? Like buckyballs are a combination of 60 carbon particles, right? And they exhibit wave-particle duality, and then you can collapse the wave function of this buckyball, right? Your body has a frequency, a wavelength. The moon has a wavelength, etc. and so forth. And quantum mechanics doesn't say if the wave function isn't collapsed, it can't engage in causal relations, or it doesn't exist until it's observed. That's not what's being said in quantum mechanics, so you're just wrong all over the place. Yield the mic.
Yeah, exactly, Hal. And it is a very good argument saying that if God is an observer, and of course classical theism says that God is everywhere, so he's actually observe everything, then everything would be collapsed already. I mean, come on, because that's a silly thing to say. Well, you have to have a conscious observer to have the wave function collapse. That's just a silly saying, because if you say there is a God, you just shoot yourself in the foot. We wouldn't have been able to do any experiment, because all the wave function would be collapsed, in the collapsed state. We wouldn't have, as Hall put it out, wouldn't have the wave particle duality of matter, on a quantum level. So yeah, that is so silly. And the other so silly this guy saying IDScience is that God is outside of the universe, or transcend the universe. Okay, what the hell does this mean? So you mean that God is not interacting with the universe, or something like that? God is separate from the universe. It's yeah, that's what you mean. So, well, in that case, what the hell we care for? If God is not interfering with the universe, he's not doing anything to particles or anything, well, now in that case, God is useless. Totally, who cares he exists or not exists? But on the other hand, it says no, God is actually interfering with stuff because God started life and all that. Then you contradict yourself. Then God is part of the universe. You see, there is no no chasm, no void between God and physical matter, because it's interacting with physical matter, and that shows that everything is physical, including God, if that they exist. Okay, so you're just saying no nonsense. You self-contradict to yourself, and you're giving us some word salad, and absolutely meaningless. Mike is free.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on the sources. In IDScience, I asked you in text, I didn't get a response. Is that IDScience.org? Is that your website? Oh, it's not. All right. So, I guess you're not going to go take time to go look in your hard drive, or could you just copy and paste the actual name of the article, IDScience, with the author? For arguments that you're making, you're saying there's peer-reviewed scientific papers supporting what you're saying. IDScience, well, yeah, but we're asking you basically the same question. Can you give us an academic source for any of the claims that you're making? I mean, we're just repeating, each one of us are asking for the same stupid question. Yeah, so you're basically, I guess you're just going to avoid it. I don't even know why. Anyway, a tier, tap, whatever your name is, your mic.
Yeah, I was just gonna say good job to Harry and Hal for basically disproving the omnipresence claim of God. So if you believe that there's a separate God that's out there, then automatically observing everything, then automatically the wave functions are collapsed. you know and if you don't agree with that, then basically you have to make God magical,
The debate and voice. I've had
an irrational position. We can't have an irrational God that runs around, and on the one hand, in reality there's no evidence for him, but on the other hand, you need to use magic to explain what's going on. I mean, it's just stupid and silly. So that's pretty much it. I think we basically disproven religion, and there's no need to keep running around in circles on it. Nice mix free.
Well, I mean, this is a basic argument. I don't know why you guys are having a problem with this. Theism, traditional theism believes that God, he does not live in our current space-time continuum. Okay, he lives in a different dimension of reality. He lives in a spiritual dimension. Therefore, he would not actually, for example, if nobody's looking at the moon, if nobody on Earth is actually looking at the moon is not there. Okay, Einstein didn't like this. He didn't like the fact that if nobody's looking at the moon isn't there, right? Teprika, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Okay, God is not looking at the moon. Okay, if nobody's actually observing the moon is in a superposition. It's not in one definite state. But when someone actually looks at the moon, it actually collapses the wave function. Okay. What you guys are doing, you're saying that, well, if God existed, he would be collapsing all wave functions. That's not true. We know it's not true because we collapse wave functions. Okay. But you're saying that, well, if God existed, he must be collapsing all wave functions. Well, what about the fact that we need a sentience to collapse a wave function? Okay, that's the other side of the coin, which you're not addressing. Address that, Teprika. Address the fact that we have to have a sentience or a measurement in order to collapse the wave function. That's the other side of the coin that you're not addressing. Once you address that, then you'll have the answer to your question. We need it. The fact is that we have to have a sentience to collapse the wave function, and not all sentiences are observing all things at all one time. To say that God is observing all things at the same time. Nowhere are you going to find that in any religious text. It doesn't exist. Okay, this is something that you're just inventing. Go ahead, Harry.
What are you talking about? You don't know even your religion? Are you a Christian or something? Okay, because in the Bible it says that Jesus knows even how many hairs you had on your head, and say nothing happens without the knowledge of God, and not a sparrow fall to the ground without God knowing it. God is observing everything according to classical theism. See, now that there is a contradiction in classical theism, yeah, for sure, because it says that God is separate from the universe, but the God is immanent in the universe. That's a big problem with the God concept in the classical theism. That shows that the God could not exist, at least on the basis, on the principle of non-contradiction. And if contradictions are okay for you, okay, then then anything can goes, and then you are no longer able to tell me anything because contradictions are okay. Who knows is it true or false or whatever? I have no tools to determine what is true and what is not. So if I throw out my principle of non-contradiction and stuff like that, so you're making no sense, my friend. You really do you not make any sense. You just come up and taking and pulling things out of your ass. You're saying, well, God doesn't observe. How do you know that? Where you get the information from? You talk to God. You have a hotline for it. You say you talk God. Do you observe everything? He said, nah. Don't be silly. I don't observe anything. Things like that. Come on, it's just becoming funny. Mike is free.
IDScience originally claimed that according to quantum mechanics, in order for the universe to exist, a consciousness has to be observing it, right? And IDScience believes that the universe exists. I successfully rebutted that claim, so now he's lying about what his original claim is because I successfully rebutted him. Also, if an object doesn't have a specific location, it means that the object isn't located in a specific place. It doesn't mean the object doesn't exist, right? Otherwise, the claim that the object doesn't have a specific location would be false, right? Because there is no object. Heal the mic.
Well, I want to thank him. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Let's see. Let me see if I can quote it. If you look at the moon, it is there. But if you don't look at the moon isn't there. You got that, guys? You got that down, Pat? I mean, that pretty much shoots down materialism, doesn't it? And, the only thing I really feel bad about is those poor astronauts. Think of all the people that looked away, and those poor astronauts, the moon disappeared. I mean, gee, what a shame. I mean, don't you think it kind of hurt those guys? Where did they go? They were floating in space or something, or did they? Oh, wait a minute. I guess they would disappear too. Uh, why don't we all go to the Matrix, take the blue pill, and get this all over with here? It seems like that would be the best bet, because we're sitting in here, and some people are discussing materialism, and other people are discussing the idea that the moon would disappear if you didn't look at it. Well, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, I guess. Go ahead, ID. Bring up some more of that. That was, you're really giving us comic relief here in this room. I agree, Delta. It's comic relief.
Okay, well, John, you're debating things that you haven't studied, obviously. I learned my lesson a long time ago not to do this. You need to learn your lesson. Delta V, I'm going to, not tonight, I don't have the time to do this, and I'm not on the server I want to do this, but I'm going to respond to the YouTube website that you posted up in a debate between me and, I can't remember his name, Agnostic. So I invite you, Delta V, to that YouTube website, and we can hash it out. And all those links that you're pleading me for, I'm going to inundate you with them. Not only am I going to inundate you with them, with them, I'm going to demand that you respond to them specifically. Okay, and we'll see how well you do. Go ahead, Harry H. Debate in voice. I've had my experiences debating in voice. 90 to 95% of what...
we are all shivering in our boots, because you come up with your idiocy, basically. And yes, that video about with Agnostic was fantastic. It didn't last long. To show up that you are obviously have no clue about what evolution is. You redefine everything, you redefine what evolution is. In other words, you're building up straw men so you can knock it down. Yeah, but that's fantastic job there. But anyway, as I said, this guy is most likely, as he's talking, he's a idealist monist, And for the idealist monist, you need God to observe things, because if there's no human beings, and observing things disappear. That there is no actually reality is not material. It is dependent. It's a product of a mind. Okay, and if it's no observers, that there is no conscious mind around, then nothing exists. You see. So that's why they need the God business going there. That conscious mind, which is always existing, is always doing the stuff. So it's you can't talk about wave function collapse and all that in a monist idealist thing, because there is no particles, there is nothing, no matter whatsoever, no physical things. It's all just a dream, basically. The dream of the gods or something. So you are not a matter, nothing, And that is the stupidest idea ever. It's very easy to defeat. You can use dualism for that to defeat. You can talk about consciousness. You see, what is consciousness and what you need for consciousness. You need memory and all that, and you can see that we can't have that without a brain, which is matter, so on, so on, so. Anyway, Mike is free.
Well, I made the mention that he come up with the idea that when you look away from the moon disappears, and I tried to understand that. See, and then he comes up here and he says, "Well, you shouldn't talk about things you don't understand." Well, tell me, Mr. IDScience, where can I find that course, or where can I find that peer-reviewed paper? I find that very interesting. Well, I went to college. I don't ever remember seeing any a course name of the disappearing non-material moon studies at all. So please, Mr. IDScience, educate me. If the moon disappears when I look away, what if I take a picture of it while I'm looking away? Would that work, or does the camera fit into that equation 2. I find it interesting, and then you came up to the mic and said, well, you shouldn't talk about things you don't understand. Well, of course, I really don't understand. So I'm requesting, just like Delta does, please give me the peer-reviewed papers on the disappearing moon when you look away. I would appreciate that, IDScience. Please educate me. Yes, I am definitely stupid about the disappearing moon idea. I guess maybe somebody. Oh, I'll tell you what. Maybe XBR can fill me in on the disappearing moon phenomena. Please help me out. You or Delta, please. Thank you, XB. You have the mic.
Now I just want to say real quick that
Well, that's fine, Delta. Uh, you know, you can be disgusted with something that's the truth. Okay, whether or not you being disgusted does not verify or nullify a hypothesis. Okay, that has no relevance to the validity of a hypothesis. And for everybody who's listening to this debate in future, please forgive my spelling. Okay, I don't type for a living, so my spelling is going to be terrible. So actually, the way I learned to type was I just type as fast as I can, and then I let my spell checker do the work because it's much easier that way. Of course, I have no spell checker here on Pal Talk, so you're going to see errors. But Delta, I would actually love to, formally debate you on the YouTube website or any other website you want to. Because Delta, I have the information that you're asking for. All of these links that you're asking, well, IDScience, where are these? Where's all the scientific information, peer-reviewed scientific information that you're talking about? I have it. I have it available. I just, forgive me, but I can't research it and listen to the questions being posed to me simultaneously. I don't have that ability. Some men do. I don't. Okay, I can't do that. I have to, actually, it takes my time. My entire hard drive is filled with information, and it takes me a while to actually research this. But I'll find it. And so, Delta, I'm going to pose. I'll actually next week sometime. I'm going to post some references on the YouTube debate site that you guys posted up, and we can go from there. Okay? If any of you guys here in the room here who want to get involved in a debate with me on the YouTube, the believers versus non-believers YouTube website, I would be more than happy to oblige. Okay, go ahead, Harry H.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about IDScience, it's wrong. ID, not science. Okay, let's just call it what the spade's a spade. Okay, so one thing about him is that he says that if somebody doesn't believe his bullshit, they are subjective in their atheism. You see, if they would be objecting, they would actually believe what he's sprouting on. Because what he said is everything is true, and his opponent don't take it because for some other reasons, because they stand atheist and they have to admit that theism is true or something like that. So basically, what he does is all the time poisoning the well, and of course he's promising. And never delivering. There is a good Hungarian old political joke about that. A woman goes to the court and want to divorce his communist husband, and he says, the judge asks, why you want to divorce? Well, listen, I've been 3 times married, I'm still a virgin. Just ask, how come? Well, my 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 first husband was a confectionery. All he did is licked. Okay, and my next husband was, I can't remember, but I can't remember exactly that joke. Okay, sorry. And so my next husband was something else, and all he did yeah. Oh, sorry. Next, a tanner, a fur merchant. All he did is just checking the fur. And my last husband, this is a communist. He's always promising but never deliver. Okay, mic is free.
Yeah, IDScience, you're just using every excuse that you have. No one's forcing you to put your fucking hand up, and you already know that we're not interested in stuff unless you can back it up. So put your little hand down, log the fuck off, get your shit together, and then come back in the room so you can back up any of the crap that you're claiming. You can do that right now, IDScience. No one's stopping you. No one's forcing you to go back up on queue and continue to make more excuses. I'm not even asking you questions. I'm just simply asking you to get your stuff together. Once again, let me ask the room again. Are you guys willing to wait for IDScience to get his stuff? Anyone else willing to wait for IDScience to get his stuff? Yeah, so we're willing to wait IDScience, but if you're just going to make more excuses, and obviously going back up on mic IDScience is just, you're procrastinating. So just, once again, log off, get your shit together, come back in, or just don't put your hand up, get your shit back together, and then come back on queue when you're ready. Because right now you're just wasting everyone's time, including your own. Open mic.
Okay, Pantheist, if I do this, and I will do this, if I do this, are you then going to read every single paper that I give and give a succinct rebuttal to it? Are you going to do this or not? Because if you want me to actually go research this information and post it, I then expect you to read it in depth, and and hopefully you understand what you're reading. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you're going to understand what you're reading, and I want you to give a rebuttal to it. Are you prepared to do this, Pantheist? Because I am, okay? If you're prepared to do this, if you're actually prepared to take the time to read the article and give a succinct rebuttal to it, then I will do it. So what do you think, Pantheist? You want to do this or no? And also, if you do want me to do this, I want you to give me a very specific topic, because we've been talking about, I don't know, 10, 15 different topics here. So give me a very specific topic in which you want the scientific information provided from, and I'll be more than happy to find it for you. I'll take, I won't listen to any responses. See, the problem here is that, when I get off the mic here, Voice of Reason, Harry H, Agnostic One, they're going to say, well, IDScience, what about this? What about this? The IDScience, and in the background, as I'm trying to research the information that I'm looking for you, Pantheist, I'm trying to process all these questions. I can't do this. Some men can do this. I can't. I don't have the ability to do this. Okay, this is the problem. So I will actually turn my ears off, take my headphones off. I will look I will look for the information that you specifically give. But Pantheist, I expect you to read it and respond to me. Okay, are you going to do this or not?
IDScience. You really you wasted an entire 2 minutes doing this. I also like the phrasing that you put forward, that you would research this topic. It's like, if you're going to make the claim, you should already have the evidence to back up the claim. But since you need to research the claim first and then find the evidence that's true, kind of shows that you're not really dealing with a full deck of cards, is it? But yeah, I have no intention to debate you on this, because for all intents and purposes, it's really just stupid to debate the subject of evolution as to whether or not it happens. Because all you have to do to find evidence for evolution is to type up to Google the evidence for evolution.
Or you can type up into Google another phrase called observed instances of speciation. And there you go. If you refuse to do this, if you can't seem to be able to do this, then I'm sorry, but that's on you. That's your entire fault. Sorry about that. So yeah, when it comes down to it, I don't get why anyone would want to debate you, considering the fact that you not only deny the reality of the subject itself, and you also just are engaging in this sort of fantasy to say that intelligent design, quote unquote, is actually science when all it is simply just creationism. Go ahead, Harry. You're mine.
Yeah, I just came up to make a remark on that. He said, well, do you going to answer it? Because if I'm going to do this research, I want to know if you're going. Well, he's supposed to be Nexus. He already done the research. It looks like he has to do the research now. He just start to do the research about the stuff. And, yeah, I mean, he has a hard drive full of information and all that. He done the research already. Nah, he's lying his ass out. That's all. It's comical, this guy. Anyway, Mike is free.
Well, yeah, listen to what he's saying. He's saying he wants to be able to copy and paste something, and then we have to do a bunch of research and prove that we understand it. He doesn't have to prove that he understands it or prove that he understands it before he copies and pastes it, but he wants us to do that, right? It's like, no, dude, you demonstrate to us that if you want us to demonstrate that we understand the article, you demonstrate, and you could show us how, right? Teach us, but you're not. You're just fucking hand waving, dude. No, do it here, do it now. Copy and pasting something doesn't show me you actually understand it, and that's what you're saying you want to do. You're saying you got all this information on your database, on your hard drive that's really hard for you to get to right now. But if we allow you, you'll post it on a site. How is that you demonstrating that you know this shit? I've already said I could do exactly the same thing. I could just post articles from the databases I have access to. But that doesn't show that I understand it. You want us to demonstrate that we understand it, then you do it first. They're your articles. You demonstrate to us that you actually understand the articles that you're saying we won't understand. Go ahead. Put your money where your mouth is. Free mic.
Well, he's only got about 5 minutes left. I see his hand up here. All I've heard the past 30 minutes, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. You've had ample time. Put your goddamn mic down and go get your fucking shit and let's get this shit going. You're holding us up there. Intelligent design, science. You're holding us up. And it's not like I want to sit around all night waiting for you to get your shit together. Let's get it together. This is how this room rolls. You're holding everybody up. You've been bitching the past 30 minutes. I can't do this. I gotta get my stuff. Well, you've had 40 minutes now. So let's get it going. Mike is free.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I mean, IDScience, you say you've been debating evolutionists for the past 10 years or so. You should be able to fairly quickly summarize what it is that you typically would copy and paste into a forum, right? I mean, you've read it yourself, the stuff you copy and paste. You've seen the stuff you're pasting. You've read it, I assume, and so you should be able to summarize what it is that you have researched fairly quickly, fairly easily. Should be straightforward. Should be second nature. You should know the stuff like the back of your head because it's been 10 years, right? I mean, you could get a graduate degree. You could have gotten a graduate degree in that time. Instead of debating evolutionists, you could have gotten a graduate degree in evolution, right? Mike's free.
IDScience agnostic. I've done it. I've been doing it here in this room and in Pal Talk for I don't know how many months now here. IDScience agnostic. Let me ask you a question. What falsifies evolution? I want you to step up to the mic, or any of you guys. Okay, anybody who thinks they can answer the question. Evolution, it can be falsified. Evolution is falsifiable. What is it that falsifies the theory of evolution? Do you know what it is? Okay, if you understand what falsifies the theory of evolution, if you understand what it is, then when I give the information that proves that this theory, that this has been verified, that the thing that falsifies evolution has been verified, then evolution is falsified. But you guys will not accept it. When I give it to you, guys will all I see in text is IDScience. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're an idiot. You're a moron. Blah 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 blah. But I can actually give you the pertinent information if you want.
Well, I try to give him every avenue possible, right? Because I was saying, all right, give the papers. Then he said he would. Then he's claiming that I wasn't willing to read the paper, even though I agreed in text that I would read it. And then, I don't know. He's asking about what would it mean to falsify evolution. I was going to respond to him about, well, you can't falsify. You could falsify a theory, perhaps, but not evolution itself as a fact. At best, you could show that the explanation for evolution could be fucking faulty, if that's possible. But I don't know. He's not here in the room anymore. I don't know where to go on from here then. John, your mic.
Well, congratulations, Delta. The comedy hour is now over. But seriously, I found him so disingenuous in the ability to do apples and oranges and come up with pumpkin pie. It was amazing. The idea that evolution is falsifiable. And what is the alternative to evolution? Creation? Yeah, right. Well, now, if you can get some papers together that would falsify evolution and prove creation, then God would no longer be a faith, would it? It would be a provable situation. So I'm sorry. I have never, in all my years here on Pal Talk and in my lifetime, ever had anybody prove to me evolution is falsifiable. We are evolution. We are biology. We are reality. And I couldn't believe that a man of his supposed intelligence would come up with a matrix thinking that looking away from the moon disappears. You have got to be absolutely flaming insane to even postulate that as some kind of a reality. And then consciousness is outside of our body. Yeah, okay, that's a nice proposal. Got any kind of thing to back that up with? A little Kundalini or something? Not really. Go ahead, Amica.
Well, like I said, I like to come in here to learn stuff, and when somebody says, well, I have proof of God, like the idiot I am, I usually go, oh, cool. I would like to see the evidence of God that you have. Go ahead and show me. and I start to get my hopes up, and then they say something ridiculous like, "See, the sun exists, therefore it's God." So then it's like I feel like, okay. So I'm thinking, well, if IDScience has all of this information that he has, then I would like to see it because I'm all for learning something. But, after he just starts repeating the same thing and blathering on the mic, I just have to put him on ignore. He seems to have a very nervous voice about, like he's nervous. Doesn't he have like this nervous voice? It makes your blood pressure go up. And Olivia, I would think that if there was a God, he would be more than detectable, okay? I would think that he would be quite obvious. But why, instead, do these people have to hop around with vague points, to try and prove their God? I would think that if there is God, he would be more than detectable, Olivia. You have very low standards. I expect God to be quite obvious. Oh God, Ace, it's your turn on the mic. Mic is free.
I think it's pretty funny how you say detectable, Amica. Yeah, so there's so many different types of evolution. Just saying that evolution is falsifiable without being specific is kind of difficult to understand what one